Hey, we are all about the technical difficulties here. Uh, um, that is a part of the best thing about 5% chance is that we are both 5% chance of success and 5% chance of oops. Someone apparently said soup at the beginning of this game. For those of you who have been here for a while, you know what that means. But for tonight, we are with the lovely cast and GM of our new game that will be starting next Thursday on our adventuring table of the Monster of the Week game, the Seattle Paranormal Investigations crew. For now, I'm going to pop it off to each of them to introduce themselves. And we'll start with the illustrious GM of this game, the mastermind behind all things to come, Devin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anne. You may recognize me from other 5% Chance productions like the Mulberry Holiday Special, I forget what it's called. I was here before, and 5% Chance invited me back. Good luck trying to get rid of me. Pronouns are she, her, and do you want to say a thing about our characters, or is that a later
No,
thing?
we'll get to that.
Hi, I'm me. What's up? Uh, Shout out to Shelly, my friend Shelly, who's in chat. Glad you're here.
And popcorn it over to whoever you would like.
Oh, Nikki, you're it.
Uh, what? Oh no, I've been chosen. Hello there, people. I am Nick, he, they, and you can find me on various social media as NixNat1, that is with the number one, and I have appeared in various APs over the years everywhere. I'm sure you've seen my face at some point, I think. I don't know. I don't know what you all watch, but you might have seen me somewhere. So, and now I am here with 5% chance playing Monster of the Week, one of my favorite powered by the Apocalypse system, so I'm interested to see where it goes. And now I shall pass to Ian.
Hi, my name is Ian DePriest. I'm new to TTRPG Actual Plays. This is actually my second one that I'm going to be on ever. Thank you so much for having me. I am a voice actor, singer-songwriter. You can find me on all the socials as Ian DePriest, on Twitter as Ian LDP, or X, whatever you want to call it nowadays. Um, yeah, I think that's a really quick, short synopsis of me. So I'm just going to pass it to DJ now.
Hey everyone. My name is DJ Kelly Kutroki. This is actually my first streamed actual play, but I've been with the Queer XP for 2 seasons. If you don't know about that, I can talk about that till I'm blue in the face. I actually just joined their leadership team as their growth and development team lead. So you can find me on Twitter at DJ_KQ. Hopefully, if you follow me, you like sass and sarcasm and equity conversations, because that's all it is. Pronouns are he, him, his.
Wonderful. Yeah, so just I'm so excited to have all of y'all at a table. Seeing some like wonderfully new faces, some returning, to tell this wonderfully interesting tale of the quirks and queries that is Seattle. Um, so I am going to put Devin in the hot seat first before we get to all of y'all. Um, First and foremost, let's talk about Monster of the Week. What is this game? How did it kind of come across your table? What inspired you to one create a story through Monster of the Week, and also the inspiration for Seattle being the hub of all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Monster of the Week kind of ended up in my lap thanks to Curtis, uh, the DM slash GM over on the D&D stream. Uh, he had been trying to get me to run a game for, I think, as long as he's known me. Which has been a while at this point, probably more
So
years than I want to
forever.
think about. Yeah. He's been trying to get me to run a game, and we happened to see a Monster of the Week book, and I was kind of looking at it, I was like, oh, this seems kind of fun. Like, I love Monster of the Week shows. I love, Buffy. I love Supernatural. I vibe with that. Just like kind of silly, also kind of terrifying, exploring like weird creatures and myths and whatever else they can come up with. So when I looked at it, I was like, this seems kind of interesting. He said, great, grabbed it out of my hands, bought it, and then handed it to me. He goes, that's yours now. So I read the book, started running a personal game with him and a couple other friends, and it had been going pretty well. So when we were asking around about stuff to run on the stream, I was like, you could maybe try, I could see how it goes. As far as Seattle, I grew up in the Seattle area. Specifically, I grew up in Port Orchard, Washington. If you're not from there, you won't know where it is, and that's fine. You don't need to. It's probably better that way. I just tell people I'm from Seattle because it's the closest thing that anybody knows. But growing up there, Seattle is such a weird place, full of very interesting people and full of a lot of like different cultures and just sort of cultures combining together in a way. There's a very big like Southeast Asian presence there. There's a very big Latin community there. We have people from all over the place. And so when I was thinking about what kind of story I would want to tell in Seattle, it's like, well, I don't really want to just go over the thing everybody's heard before, right? Like, I don't want to do werewolves and vampires. Forks did that, and nobody else needs to think about it because that was enough. Once was enough. We don't need to go back. Everybody's talked about ghosts. Everybody's done your ghouls, your goblins, your whatever. And so I was like, I want to get people to come on and tell me creatures from their childhood, creatures they grew up with, creatures their parents would tell them about. So that was kind of what spawned the idea for this. And boy, y'all did not disappoint. The stuff you guys sent in is amazing, and I am so excited.
I was like, that's like the one fun thing. So, as also a producer on the channel, I got to read all of your submissions, and what
Ooh.
you brought into because one of the questions was going off of Devin's idea of what were the folklore that y'all grew up with? What was something that like was the monster under the bed kind of situation? What was the for me the boogeyman? Um, and seeing all of that, which is now the question for y'all, is what drew you to this game? Because we do like a public casting, like this is a casting call that y'all submitted to. So what was your first inclination of this is a game that I want to play? Be it just a love of the monster of the week, or be it the story that Devin presented in that initial form. We're gonna go backwards this time because I will call at least one person out, and then the rest of y'all can talk whenever you want to. So, DJ, I do want to start with you because I can see the excitement on your face.
Yeah. So, it was kind of just an interesting nexus of opportunity that kind of made me see the tweet, the call that you all put out. Um, as I said, I've been doing some podcasting with the Queer XP for 2 seasons, and really enjoying uh, not just the one shots we did, but we did a short term mini campaign, and that again it was like 4 or 5 sessions, about the same length as this, and just like the little bit more depth that we were able to get into in that. And then I saw this kind of pop up on my feed based on some of the other people I follow. Looked into 5% chance to make sure that y'all were legit, and y'all are. But I think really, I've never played Monster of the Week either. I've been a pretty like D&D exalted kind of TTRPGer. I've gotten a lot of experience outside of that because of the Queer XP, but what I was really drawn in by was the like explicitness of we're wanting a diverse cast. We want a diverse cast that wants to talk about monsters and folklore from those areas, regions, and centralize that to the story and the plot. And as a mixed race, like brown person, that's not something I see very often. And so it was kind of a nice opportunity to say, I'm going to toss my name in the hat, see how it goes. But at the very least, like the fact that this is not just an add-on, but really centralized was important to me. And so I can say so far y'all haven't disappointed, and I'm excited to join in with everyone else and see what horrors we have created for ourselves.
Because y'all have definitely created some horrors based on that session 0 for your own beings.
Yeah.
So whoever would like to take it off next, if anyone feels inclined. If not, I will call on you.
I'll just piggy off back of that, just because the tension of being chosen makes me weird. So so here I am. It was a very similar kind of thought process for me, actually, along with DJ. I was sitting at home, doom scrolling through my Twitter feed, and then boop, there it was. And I thought it was really cool that you guys specifically asked for uh, monsters from your own culture and really centered and had the heart of like what your culture is in mind and explicitly ask questions about your culture and what that means to you. And for me, I am an immigrant. Like I grew up in Singapore, born and raised there, but then you know, immigrated to the good old Midwest of Kansas. Uh, hence this weird neutral American accent. Uh, so I I think culture has always been a very special thing in my life, just because I felt in a lot of big parts of my life, especially in childhood, I had to learn about so many different cultures very quickly as I was placed into from a big city to small town, rural, and like Eastern ideology to Western ideology, and like different myths and legends, and so it's always fascinated me how different cultures express their monsters. And so, wanting to connect back to my own roots, back to Singapore, Southeast Asia, I thought it would be a cool way to play this game. I've only played one other like apocalypse system game, which was Masks before, in like my own home games, and so I was just like, ooh, I really want to, potentially be in Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Supernatural and see what happens there. Maybe I'll get 13, 14 seasons and it'll never end and I'll just pay my check. Uh, you know, uh, but that's me.
Um, I guess I can go next. Um, in in order to kind of connect to my own, Filipino culture mythology, I did a bunch of research like 2 or 3 years back, and I came across where did I put it? Uh, my favorite graphic novel series, Tresse. So,
Mhm.
really, the simple answer is Tresse brain rot. And when the casting call came in, I was looking at it and I had several thoughts. I was like, this is going to be one heck of a fun salad, crazy thing, like I was looking forward to, uh, being at a table, and I imagined that there would be people of vastly different cultures and different experiences. Like I could learn a lot of cool shit from this, like that kind of vibe of just like, and you know find out people have monsters that are as terrifying in their culture as the stuff that I read about. Um, but then when I found out who's going to be at the table, I was extremely surprised that I would say something like, "Hey, I have something similar like that." Like I didn't expect there to be as many Southeast Asians at the table. You know, I've always been kind of chill about being the only one, because I come at it with the mindset of I can learn from other people and other people's experiences and cultures, right? And I still fully intend to do that. But it's one of those rare occasions where I'm like, hey, you're saying something and I kind of understand. I kind of have something similar. And like, hey, like having that reference point that's similar but not exactly the same. It's really cool. And like DJ, it's just like heck, that is entirely something I've never known about. Like I cannot wait to learn more about what you bring to the table. Don't want to single out the non-Southeast Asian person, but like, hey, I look forward to learning about what you bring to the table as well.
I know I already spoke, but I want to jump off of that and just say, like, I'm also used to being the only at most tables, and even though yes, I'm not Southeast Asian, it feels very different. I don't feel like being the only because I think all four of us have that experience, and so
Yeah.
it's fun to have this kind of inside baseball conversation, but also like be welcomed into that and like not just like, oh yeah, you can be here, but like, oh no, you should be here. What's this look like? What's this for you? And so it doesn't
Yeah.
feel isolated in the way that I think being the only brown person at the table usually feels. So thank you, Anne, and I'm excited. And yeah,
And all of you have such interesting stories about how you found out about this. For me, sadly, it is not as, shall we say, compelling. I was just scrolling through my Twitter. I saw Monster of the Week next to the words casting call, and I instantly clicked. I did not even see anything else. But
Pretty sure, Nikki, you're like our first one.
Oh, was that?
You were within the
Second
first
submission.
5, I think. Like we put it
yeah.
up. I went to bed and woke up, and like I had yours. I had yours and a couple others, and I was like, well, all right, there we go.
And Monster, like, because yeah, I grew up, I'm sure like most of you, with shows like Supernatural, Fringe, and then
Mhm.
recently I watched Grimm, and like a couple of others as well. Like most of them never last more than one season before they get canceled, sadly. But yeah, I like that format, Not something you don't really get nowadays because of all the you only get 6 to 8 episodes and 2 seasons and then it's gone. No more like the 22 episode format and then series that go on for way too long to the point that they have to come up with weird ass stories. Like randomly there's just a musical episode or like clowns or
I love
2D
a musical
Hey,
animated.
We can't
Yeah.
diss those
clowns,
musical episodes, though.
I love a musical episode. I don't care that none of them can sing.
clowns.
I don't care that none
I,
of them can sing.
Yeah.
I love musical episodes, but also clowns are a whole different genre of horror. Okay,
Oh,
no one signed up for clowns here, unless
you know a show is jumping the shark when it hits like, well, let's just do a musical episode and see what happens. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
here for it.
can we
Let's.
can we
Yep.
can we have episodes to the point where we jump the shark like that? I would love to jump the shark that hard.
Uh,
I'm all for improv singing. Uh, all right,
well,
so we got to know a little bit about y'all and just like how you joined this game and how you were all brought to this table. But I do want to get to know a little bit more about y'all because we have touched on it a little bit of your experience with TTRPGs, how that kind of started, not just in the streaming and professional realm, but what really brought you to a table where you said, yes, I'm going to roll dice and sit around with my friends and play fantasy and play a game. Um, because really, that is the heart of everything that we do as creators, but also like on this channel, is that everything's meant to be about friends telling a story and rolling some dice to figure out the outcome. Um,
I,
and I
um,
it's so great. I was like, I will also start with this just to ease the popcorning off, and everyone can jump on off of this. Because my story is quite honestly very funny. Is like I started playing TTRPGs and started playing D&D because I had a crush on someone who we all worked together, and it was like my chance to hang out with them outside of work. Needless to say, they did not play that game, but I had offered my house as place to
Oh,
play
no.
the game. So I couldn't back out.
Oh my God.
Damn.
Erica
And
Jean.
I
No.
know. I was trying. But like I had such a ball with it and like really enjoyed the storytelling, the hanging out with friends, and just delved so much into it that I picked up so many different games in different ways to tell stories. Even coming from like a theater background, like I went to college for um, theater for mostly performance, but ended up with directing and administration. Um, so coming out of that, I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. It's like I'm going to sit around and have a ball telling these stories. And that's kind of how I got here. Um, so now it's your turn.
I'm gonna go
I
ahead and
told
tell
my
my
embarrassing
story. I'm gonna go ahead and tell
Yes.
my story because I feel slightly less bad about it now that you've told yours. But I also
That's
picked
why I
up
always
D and
start.
D. I also picked up D&D to impress the guy. uh, I was it was my first year away from home. I was at college. Um, it's one of my first times at the student lounge, just hanging out, and there was a group of people at a table playing dice, and acting things out and role playing. And I got really intrigued because there was a cute guy sitting there, and I was like, okay, you know what? There's I like my chances here. There's like three guys and girl. Like I was playing the numbers game a little bit because I was a really weird. I was a really weird college freshman, and I liked the odds in my favor. I Anyway, 18-year-old me was weird, but I asked them what playing, and they taught me how to play D&D 3.5. I played in that
Ooh.
campaign for like
Nice.
2 months. I also found out cute guy was a total toad, but
Damn.
Oh,
yeah, disappointing. But I also found out that the local comic book shop was running something called Pathfinder Society. And people were like, Pathfinder is basically like 3.5. You could learn how to do this. Uh, so I learned I learned I learned Pathfinder and played that for a while. And yeah, that's kind of my origin story. I didn't start playing other TTRPGs until like more recently, like 2019, 2018, because before it used to be a lot of D&D and Pathfinder, but now I Good Society or Fight with Spirit, which is a sports anime TTRPG that has the cards and everything. It's really fun. And someone mentioned Masks earlier, one of my favorite games. So I have a more varied experience. I mostly run the Power Rangers RPG now because that is my entire personality, which is a different discussion. But yeah, so shout outs to Alex Dotsko. What's up? You're kind of a jerk, but thank you.
Hmm. Well, so what I'm getting so far is never underestimate the power of a cute guy.
Yes.
Yes.
No, the real takeaway is that 18-year-old Anne was superficial and shallow. And I'm glad I left her behind.
All right. I mean, I. Oh, right, I shall go next then. So back when I was in college. So this is back when I was in Malaysia, which is I don't know why I said back when I was in Malaysia. I'm in Malaysia right now, but like when I was in college, I started, you know, I was in an art course. I was researching a lot of like creative art stuff, and then I stumbled upon this thing called Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, wait, this is really cool because at that time I also recently started playing Dragon Age Origins, and I wanted
Yes.
more of that. I was obsessed with that video game back then.
My favorite, the OG.
Yeah, it
Have
honestly.
you? There's Dragon Age TTRPG.
Yes, there
Sorry, I had to
is.
blurt that out. I love the system for that game. Sorry, I just
Yeah,
got
no.
excited. He was like Dragon Age.
Yes. But yeah, so I got into it and then I started researching and I found out, oh, no, from the Dragon Age, then I found out about Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. And then I played those games and then I found out Baldur's Gate was based on Dungeons and Dragons. And so I went to Dungeons and Dragons and fell down into like a wormhole of dice and numbers, but I never actually got to play when I was in Malaysia because I couldn't get from my friends to it. I was like, "Do you want to roll dice with me and role play?" And they're like, "Nah." And I was like, "Please role play." And then they're like, "No." And so eventually I went overseas to further studies in the UK and then over there for 3 years and then I joined the drama society there and then put on a lot of weird shows and things like that. At one point ended up almost naked on stage for some reasons. I don't know why I was allowed to do that for the show
Oh,
in front of like parents and kids.
Detail.
I did not
Were you-
get fully
Because of
naked. I did not
detail.
get fully naked.
were you
So,
doing a production of Hair?
no, we
Or
usually do
horse. Or
Aqueous,
horse.
yes.
One of the two.
no,
Yeah.
we usually do like pantomimes and like variety shows. So for that one, we were doing a variety show. We were doing one of the numbers that we did was, he had it coming from Chicago, and
Uh-huh.
I was one of the guys who had it coming. I was the one who did the spread eagle, so I was wearing like this extremely.
Number 17.
Ah,
Yep.
yes.
Number
Oh
But anyway,
man.
I mean, a whole tangent, but yes, one of my friends from Drama Society, he's a dungeon master. He is obsessed with D&D. I never see him without wearing his trademark brown leather jacket that has like over a dozen pockets, and every single pocket has two things in it: a pair of sunglasses and a dice bag. He will always be randomly. Did someone say Dungeons and Dragons? And then he just pulls out a random dice bag, and he'll pull out another one. And sometimes, and so he started running games for us, and it's like, hey, anyone interested? And so I followed him, joined the TTRPG Society there, played my first game. That was my first long form campaign, and then eventually I learned all I can, came back to Malaysia, and then started to join the TTRBC in Malaysia. Found out that most of the people at that time were homophobic assholes. So I left the
Oh.
yes. So I left the scene and then I focused on playing with like overseas people, like Americans and European people. That is where I found most of my community, joining APs, formed like my own group with some American friends, and I did that for like a couple of years. That's why I mostly played online at the time. And then like a couple of years ago, a couple of my college friends, um, in other words, one of those people who did not want to play Dungeons and Dragons with me, suddenly, randomly, in the years while I was in the UK, got into the hobby, started their own server for Dungeons and Dragons, and then they put out a call in our old college website on Facebook, and I was like, oh, these are familiar names. And then I connected them. Hello, I am interested in Dungeons and Dragons, and then they invited me to the server, and then I am now one of their game masters, and we've been together for 3 years running, specifically making the hobby accessible to new people because the scene in Malaysia like is very gatekeepy and elitist. Thankfully, most of the problematic people are blacklisted and kicked out from back when I tried to join the scene years ago. So now it's a
Good.
lot more, yeah, it's a lot more open now. So I was happy that I was finally brought back into the scene. Yeah, but
I would
yeah,
love
then
to
Welcome
say that like
back.
you kind of like
Welcome home.
you were the catalyst for that. It's like if you
yes,
had not mentioned it
Yeah.
back in college,
yes.
it may
Honestly,
never have happened.
perhaps,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Game
perhaps,
changer.
perhaps. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
and also one of my bragging points is that my group is the one who brought finally consent checklist into the scene and
Yes.
a common
yes.
thing. Because
Awesome.
before us, people like it's that Asian mindset where why are you making your problem everyone's problem? It's like you don't
Mhm.
keep
Oh
it
my
to yourself
God.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
Yeah.
so I was like, no, blinds
I
and veils. We
Yeah,
need to
no.
use it.
Safety is so important because like I mean this is all improv. What we do is all improvisational. It's like so you can't really you have to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Um and you never know who's going to be joining the table. Ian, I know that you have not talked yet, but I will get back to you,
Oh,
promise.
it's okay.
This was a very nice segue. Where like safety is such an important where consent sheets are so
Yeah.
important for any game.
Yeah.
And that's what makes for a good story, for a good um, to build character wise, where you know that everyone is feeling safe, feeling comfy, and is open to certain things,
Yeah. Because
and not
because
to.
you
I mean, like old school D&D, it was very much like the dungeon master was trying to TPK their entire party, or like
Mhm.
it was the shock factor, and like, but no, can we
Yeah.
not?
I mean, if you know your players' limits, then you can push things in the way
Yeah.
that is safe, right? You can tell better stories, more dramatic stories.
Yes, exactly.
But yes, and then yeah. So anyway, yes. From there, I started getting into other systems. Found out about Powered by the Apocalypse, one of my favorite ones. Yeah, Monster of the Week and Mass. I'm currently running a Mass game for my group. Really
Yay.
That's
dramatic.
awesome.
yeah.
Yep. Very
I love
dramatic game
that.
so far. Yeah.
It calls to be dramatic. It's high school superheroes, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. Indeed.
Oh my
But yes.
gosh. Remind me to tell you guys about my last experience with Nast. It was so trippy. We can talk about
Oh,
it later, but I love Nast so
we will
much.
definitely talk about this later. Uh,
Yeah.
so last but not least,
I think DJ and Devin haven't spoken yet, but I will pick it up and I'll pass it on. Um,
technically Devin will be last but not least, but you and then Devin.
sh- sure. How did I get into when did I become a Legion? How how did I get into D&D or TTRPG? Well, the year was 2017. I'm also a theater person, and I've always been itching to play D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, as it was slowly becoming bigger in the mainstream. I was at my old customer service job and overheard a coworker talking about them playing D&D, and I was like, "Hey, I've always wanted to do this. Can I play? Do you have an extra seat?" And they're like, "Sure." So I made my whole entire character. I went over to their house. We started playing. We played one session, and then it ended. No, no schedule. It was misschedulings forever and ever, and it just stopped, and I was defeated. And I was so sad that I was kind of talking to one of my musician friends in town, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, I joined a D&D group, but we played one session, we didn't really get very far, and then it kind of just stopped because nobody could schedule time." And everyone just stopped talking. And he was like, "Hey, I play D&D. You should join my group." And I was like, "Ah, have I been saved?" And it was a recurring group that met uh, every Sunday physically at a table um, up until COVID. Like up until 2020, we met and we played through a big arc. Um, didn't get to level 20, but was all the way to level 15. And it was D&D 5e. That's how I learned to play first. And once that hit, um, once COVID hit and we all kind of were reclusing in our houses and spaces, we learned how to like play online, and I slowly was introduced to other um, TTRPGs. Like Masks was one of them, and one of my friends started that with me, and that's how I got introduced into the Apocalypse system. Really want to play Knives in the Dark. I've seen people play Knives in the Dark. I think that Blaze in the Dark, Knives in the Dark, Blaze in the
Blade.
Dark. Thank
Blades
you.
in the dark.
I was just like, what? It's sharp and it's pointy and it can kill someone. So really want to play that. And played like other things that were a little bit looser and like lighter. The Quiet Year. Um, I don't know if you know that one. It's a really cool, beautiful like storytelling, scheduling, not scheduling, storytelling
That's
game
that's
where
the one,
you.
the post-apocalyptic one, right? Where you build
Yeah,
your community.
it's like a post-apocalyptic thing, and
Yeah.
everyone's a kind of part of the community. They don't play like a
Yeah.
character in the community, but rather they play like big ideas of the community, and it's like a map drawing thing. And it's played with just a standard deck of cards, and each card is correlated to a question. Anyways, I don't have to talk about the game. But yeah, so slowly uh, did all of that, and then I find myself here in this space because I am naturally a performer and I need it. I need it, just like any creative person needs creativity. That's my history with the games.
DJ, did you want to go next?
I
Yeah.
think also, I was gonna say, I was like, yeah, Ian, you were right. I lost track of who talked. So
It's cool.
DJ.
You're good.
I see what it is, Erica Jane.
No, it's fine.
Um,
Sorry, ADHD.
oh,
My
it's
bad.
if I sass you, it means I
Hey.
like you. Um,
Oh, good.
so I started playing uh, tabletop games in the late 1900s. I was in middle school. Oh yeah, I'm milking this one. I was in middle
Like,
school.
wait, 1900s.
Like the 1990s.
You're like, you feel you're 120 years old right now.
It was
I
after
look
the Titanic.
good. um, so yeah, probably somewhere in the 90s. Um, so the last millennia. Oh, I can make this go weird. So I was young. It was fun. I was interested in being like the best. I was a min maxer at that point, which is not how I play now at all. Which is a very fun shift. And same with everyone else, scheduling got weird and all this stuff. So I didn't actually come back to it till college, really. And I'd been involved in all sorts of like the creative arts. I was in band for 9 years. I sang, no, band for 10 years, sang for 7, danced for about 6. Like I was all over. Did theater as
Multi-talented.
well.
Yeah.
Not
Triple
just
threat.
I just put myself in a lot of situations. But some of my friends from the dance crew were starting, and I was like, heck yes, I'll play with y'all, because I already knew them and knew that they were fun people, that they were folks that would be supportive of any sort of like fun narrative gaming portions and stuff like that. Um, what I find very funny is my longest running D&D campaign was started out as a one shot, and little secret, I don't like character gen, which is very funny. It's just like it's not. I don't like picking all the little boxes and making all the things happen. I do it, but for this one shot, I had a friend build my character because I was like, I don't make me the most generic human ranger. Yeah. It wasn't until 6 months later that they asked what our names were, and I realized I had never named the character. It was great. That campaign went on for years. Actually, we hit epic level. We hit level like 20. My only
Yeah.
time
That's
doing
awesome.
it. And it was in that game that like I wasn't min maxing. I was doing like this sounds fun narratively. What does that mean? That I kind of jumped off into another system called Exalted, which if any of you don't know Exalted, picture D&D and anime having a horrifying love child.
I have to play.
They're also
Right, yeah.
practically gods.
Oh,
They're practically gods, right?
they are gods, so everything has to
Okay,
be
yeah.
over the top. 100%. Like
Mm.
you are a god amongst mortals, literally.
Uh, So many
So
dice and so much math.
yeah, it's a D10 system. So like you roll dice like this because that's how many dice you have to use. Um,
I mean,
but again, another
it's
long running campaign. It actually is the name that I have on Twitch and like my gamer tag on Xbox is Shinsei Durhal because that was my first character that I love
Aw.
Shinsei. You might hear me reference Frederick the BDSM chicken. That's from that campaign.
Hmm.
I have lots of stories about Shinsei. Um, but for me, it was like those two long running campaigns helped me break out of the like I want to max and do everything really perfectly and efficiently to like this is a funny like joke that I'm just gonna run with. So like my ranger became a germophobic ranger because it was funny. Um, I mean Shinsei had a chicken in a BDSM dungeon because it was a joke.
Ah,
So for me, I really switched like narrative and like let's just make this more and more unhinged.
lovely.
And so and I'd gotten into one shots in that way as well, which is like ramping the unhinged to 11 because I can literally just be like, this is for one session, let's see how silly this can be. um I think also my like out of game life is doing diversity equity work, and so it's pretty like heavy and rigid and like I'm in control a lot. And when I play tabletop games, I like to just be like, this isn't who I am, but it's fun. And I like will always preference fun. Um on the podcast, the Queer XP, we did some really good one shots in that same where I'm like, this is like, do you want to hear me at my most unhinged? There's an episode called Bro Hunters, which are bros hunting ghosts. That's all you need to know. And did you know that Cats the musical has a TTRPG?
No, but I dislike Cats the musical. I'm
Oh,
so
it's
sorry.
no, that's fine. Cats the musical, wild. Not like a great musical, but it's unhinged. And so
So they
um,
made a TTRPG out of it.
the book to learn how to play it is a page and a half long, and
Oh,
most of that
okay.
is character creation. So like it's things like that now that I was
It's
like
like
this.
Jellicle and then like all the other, you know.
All
It's
right,
like
where's my pen? I'm making notes. DJ is running the cat's one page RPG.
what's
Oh
great
my
about it is
god!
it's communal and it's one person's the judge, everyone else is a cat, and they make their case, and the judge makes a decision. Like it is so
Oh my
silly.
It's
god.
I
hysterical.
think it's I think it's one that I actually told Devin to listen to. 'Cause I'm like, if you want to hear like what I am most capable of at my weirdest, it's a good one.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's I have a whole list of RPGs after talking with DJ.
I think for me, like the TTRPG stuff has been an area to just like let go of the stress of the world because let's face it, we live in a late stage capitalistic hellscape.
Word.
Um, and this lets us not be there for just a minute. And even if it is like pseudo grounded in reality, like this game, it's still just like I don't have to deal with the like drama that is happening in my head, and I can be someone else for a couple hours. Yay, let's do that. And
I'm a,
let's find a shtick, let's try something out and realize like that was funny, I want to continue with it, or never again. I played characters that had two distinct personalities, and every day I had to roll a dice to see which one was in charge. Like,
Ooh.
oh yeah, it gets weird, and I love it.
I love that.
But most of all, the ability to narratively just have fun with a situation and like build relationships and then
Mm-hmm.
play into those. Like some of the best things that I reminisce about with some of my friends is like the stupid changeling twins that I played with a friend of mine because we just were chaos gremlins and we laughed so much, and that's what
Yeah.
mattered.
I have so many questions for later. I really
Oh,
want to talk about that chicken. What is up with that chicken?
Oh,
So many
Shin-
questions.
Shinsei owned a brothel, and someone asked at one point, "Is there a mascot?" And being a sarcastic person who could think on their feet, said, "Yeah, it's a chicken. They live in the BDSM dungeon. Their name's Frederick." So they became Frederick the BDSM chicken. It,
Oh my
the
god.
characters, we all love this chicken so much that in the big fight in the end, the brothel got destroyed, and everyone's first thing was, Frederick! Like, we had to
It's the
roll to see if
chicken.
Frederick survived because that was more important than the building itself.
So
I
that's
would
cool.
I would do the same.
Did
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Frederick survive?
Frederick thrived the entire time. He popped out of the rubble. I was like, good. We all cried. It was amazing.
Honestly,
Oh,
that's
well.
all. That's all I wanted to know. Okay, shoutouts to Frederick the BDSM chicken.
Right. Oh,
Okay.
oh God, that means I have to follow that. Well,
Yeah.
my story is not nearly as exciting. So I think the first time I played D&D was like at a friend's birthday party when we were in like third or fourth grade. His dad was like, "Yeah, we'll all play D&D," and like he just kind of rolled for us and walked us through it. And like it was fun. I didn't touch it again until college. I went to an honors college, and when you put a bunch of likely neurodivergent college age students together in a building, there's really only two choices, and it's either get really into whatever you're studying or get really into like games. And I was studying math, and I can't. So I only had one choice. So
So you pick the numbers, babe?
Play games with math.
yeah, look, I
Well done.
didn't say that I
Kevin.
was good at escaping it, but I tried. um, but no, so as I was wandering around in our residence hall one time, I heard a bunch of people shouting and making all kinds of raucous noise in one of our lecture rooms. And so I popped in, and they were like, "Oh, we're playing D&D," and somebody said, "Believe, do you want to just take over his character?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so I started playing, and that's where I met most of the friends that I still have from college. That's where I met Curtis. That's where I met the rest of our friend group. And got really into D&D, got really into Magic, less into Magic now. But was mostly just played D&D until recently. And you know, Curtis got me into Monster of the Week, which has been awesome. He also ran something, I think it was called Dadlands, where instead of rolling, you just had like a bag filled with chaos and order chips, and depending on what you were trying to do, you either had to pull a certain number of chaos chips or a certain number of order chips for it. But you couldn't run out of either, because then you were either a deadbeat dad or like a rules lawyer dad, and nobody wants either of those. It was a great time. I believe that resolved by blowing up an 18-wheeler that was also a grill. It was like 20 grills
Okay.
strapped together, and we like launched a potato into one of the exhaust pipes and set the whole thing up.
Of
It was a
course.
great time. Yeah, so did that. That's what it was. Thank you, Curtis. The grill dad stole the TV remote, and so we had to get it back.
Uh,
But yeah, from there, I think Fate was one that we tried, or maybe
Oh.
it was either Fate or Fiasco. I don't remember which one it was. But
Both really
did a
fun
quick
games.
campaign in one of those. Have played Spire, 10 Candles,
Ooh,
which is really fun if you are there for something spooky.
I
we
love it.
have
was
been
fun.
trying
Spooky.
to figure out to play 10 Candles virtually for like
Mm.
3 years now.
I got a
It would,
candle right here, right now.
We will
yeah,
figure it
I'll
out.
do it. I'll
it
And
do
would
once
it.
be
we do, y'all are all invited.
yeah. So like base premise for 10 Candles, for anyone that doesn't know, is it's you know, it's collaborative storytelling. It's all just rolling d6s. You turn off every light, and all you have is a bowl in the center with 10 candles lit around it. Um, and every time a candle goes out, the scene ends. Like whatever's happening, if a candle blows out, that scene's done. You move on. And the whole understanding is like, no, this is the apocalypse. The world is ending. Everyone's gonna die at the end. Like this doesn't end well, but you're playing out the end of days.
I'm in
Oh,
And
it. I'm in
so
it.
the first time we played this was at a buddy's bachelor party because he decided he wanted to run it. We played it in a big log cabin out in the middle of the woods in Maryland.
No.
Um, in like
Like,
mid-September, I think. So like we blew out that last candle and there was nothing. And we all sat there for a minute, and then the cabin started like doing the settling thing around us, and everybody was like, "Nope, nope, no, find lights,
Oh.
speed lights."
Everyone is just like touching the sides of the cabin.
Oh yeah.
Siri,
No, I was sitting with my
Alexa.
back to the big sliding glass door, like it was. I was not having it.
Uh,
But yeah, and
also,
now I'm here.
yeah. Also, really hearing you talk about your first experience playing D&D, I very much remember how that honors college was set up,
Yeah.
and just imagine you like the hall being like the one that had all of like the busts of many people,
Mhm.
and you
Oh
just
no,
like
yeah, it
walking
was in
into
the
this
one
very
with
like
like the angriest bust of Beethoven you've ever
yes,
seen,
uh-huh,
staring at the tables, and like there was a grand piano in the corner.
yep,
Like it was.
yep, nope. That is exactly the hall that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
Uh, I had a question after this, which was about. Nope, I lost it. Do y'all have any
It'll,
questions for each
it'll come
other?
back.
It'll come back to me. That's why I'm saying, do y'all have
Back.
any questions
Uh,
um, for each other?
I
Or
I have one for the benefit of the audience. When you were filling out the casting call and you were picking and choosing the creatures you were going to submit for consideration, was there a creature in your culture that you looked at and said, "Oh no, they're not ready for this. This is awful. I really shouldn't submit that."
Mm.
I don't know if I had that thought of like they're not ready for the horrors of my people. It was more of what what did childhood Ian really love? And I was like, oh, this mythical folktale that like gets retold every so often in Chinese culture. And I was just like, that one. I want to be her. I want to be her. I
Mhm.
wasn't trying to scare people. I just wanted to be her. So that was what I chose.
Yeah, or I guess more broadly, like if you could share your thoughts about the selection process, because
Mhm.
I had very specific thoughts, but if you guys could share some of your process, that would be cool for the audience, I think.
Mm.
So I think for me it was a combination of trying to be I'm Mexican and that's what I'm tapping in on, but like so much of the like Latinx, Central American, like monsters, cryptids, folklore have connection to one another, and so I was at first trying to be like, no, I only want to do Mexican things, but then I was like, but I think that's also really disingenuous to the reality of like the native folk that were there as well as like Mexicans. What does that mean? The colonial mindset of Spain. Like it was just so many things. So then I just started to pick monsters or folklore or cryptids that um could and couldn't be defeated. So I like there's one that I put in that I'm like, I don't think that we could beat this. I don't think there's a way to beat this. But it's still interesting to see what we'll do if we encounter it. And so some of it is really straightforward. Like in the lore, there is like, oh, here's what you do to get rid of this thing. And other stuff is like, run. That's your answer. And so I think again from a narrative like wanting to see what we will do in telling this story, I wanted to pick things that could be really interesting, even if there wasn't a clean little like bow on top of it.
Yeah, I think.
um, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. For me, again, it was the childhood thing. I think a lot of my roots, I feel sometimes very disconnected to my roots because being an immigrant, and I was kind of being caught between the two. So when the questions of like what monsters from your culture and your childhood is, do you want to give? And I was thinking, well, technically, I'm like, a kid of many cultures, if you're really thinking about it, because half of one is in one part of the planet and the other half was in the other. So which one do I touch? And I just vividly remember um, how affected I was as a kid in Singapore, and how like I feel because I felt so disconnected from that. I was like, okay, cool. We're gonna go with the younger version of like Ian, of like what he remembered as a child, as monsters and his Singaporean Chinese Malay culture. And so I dug through that, and I was like, oh, these shows, these things stuck out in my mind, and one creature in particular wasn't actually um, monstrous in some ways. It was more of like a love story, like a tragic love story. And I thought, what an interesting way to put a twist in a monster of the week thing, where if we're expecting, oh, sorry if I'm ruining a theme, a monster, wouldn't it be interesting to see if there's a little bit of romance and love in there too? Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I went through mine.
I love
And then
that.
and then I chose the very weird one that I felt like most other people were like, "What is that?" And I'm like, I don't know,
You
girl.
got
It just
We're
you gotta
getting
have
happened."
some
weird.
balance there.
We're getting weird.
Yeah, I was just like, "This is really touching and beautiful." This one, I don't know. Just good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely had to do the work to kind of parse through some of the scarier creatures because I spoke to Devin about this in some detail when we were doing our one-on-one about like how I selected some of these creatures, and I was like, there is a very significant portion of these stories that involve either child-sized creatures, childlike creatures, or creatures that consumed said entities or children. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying, and explains a lot of things about why I might need therapy. Um, so the generational trauma that this sort of stories inflict that just get passed on through the generations. And I'm like, yup, this is the part of our culture no one talks about. But I think for the most part, I kind of zeroed in on like creatures that on Filipinos could look alike and be like, hey, that's really cool. That had dragon-like vibes and something that's identifiable to other people outside of the culture as well. It's like, oh, that's cool. Kind of like a dragon, but not really, that sort of vibe. And then I was like, mermaids, but also really creepy. And then I saw the words cannibal of the sea, and I was like, well, here you go, Devin. Have a good one with that one.
Oh,
So, I was like, that's kind of my process. But I was like, this is really creepy. I don't want to scar people. I want to entertain them. And then threw out like 75% of the suggestions I had. I was like, nope, we're gonna start over. And I think the only reason I wasn't at the close to the top of the list of people who applied was because I had to be really careful what I put into the form because I was like, this is really messed up. It's cool, but it's really messed up. I cannot be telling people to include this in a GTRPG actual play. So, I mean, if y'all want to read about it, that would be really cool. But go at your own risk because some of that stuff's real messed up.
that'll be
Yeah.
like an after hours thing that we'll release for you, Anne, of
Ooh,
what was meant to go in. How
love
deep
that.
did this go?
What? Yeah.
And
What got cut from the
Yeah.
list?
and all of you with your compelling process, while for me, it's just I just hear a lot of horror stories from my family and from my friends about Malaysia's folklore and Chinese people. And then I watch a shit, and I'm obsessed with horror movies, and I watch a lot of them, and I'm like, ah, yeah, and then see which one. like
Nick
my
was just
original,
like, eat?
yep, my
Honestly,
original list there was a lot.
so valid, just as a valid option, and also so wonderfully horrifying and hilarious,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah. Like I usually watch like because in Malaysia horror movie, especially Indonesia, they make a lot of horror movies, and then they all get shown in cinemas here, and so I usually watch them as they come out, all of it. So I have quite an encyclopedic knowledge of most like the typical kind of like monsters you would see in like a Malay or like Indo Malay horror films. So I was like, ooh, there's a lot of cool stuff here, and I just compiled a list of like 15 over monsters, and I was like, yeah, I now I gotta cut them down. Why did I do this? And then I cut them down, and then I was like, wait a minute, I'm Chinese. I need to include at least one Chinese monster, and then so I put in one there, and then remove another. But yes, that was my process. There's a lot of weird ass monster in Malaysia, man. Not necessarily monster, just ghosts. Lots of ghosts, weird ghosts that involves
It's
a lot of eating of fetuses for some reasons. I don't know why.
Oh my god, what is up with that? Okay, it's the same with like the Filipino monsters. They either want to eat really
there's
young children, or they are really young children, or they want to eat the moon. Like,
Yep.
dude, there's more stuff to eat than just stuff in the sky and children. Like,
something about
what?
the jungle, like something about the humid ass jungle in
Yeah,
Southeast
honestly.
Asia that is thick is creepy.
Yeah,
Just
there's a lot of superstitions about the forest here. So a list of things that you should not do so that you don't get cursed or haunted when you leave it.
yeah.
Oh, man. I know that a lot of those stories tend to be like cautionary tales, like, hide your kids, hide your wives, like literally some of those stories, right?
Yes,
Like,
literally.
it, like, those are, I know they're fully intended to scare and, somehow teach a lesson, but I'm like, this is awful. Like,
Yep.
in a lot of ways, speaking about a lot of the stories I've looked into.
Yeah. I mean, that's the wild thing when it comes to like to culture and like stories is the sheer vastness of what exactly the folklore behind it, like the cautionary tale, which I think is where a lot of like the folklore and the monsters come from. Is like you tell these stories to um, give caution, but also, in many times, these creatures could still possibly exist without the caution. Uh, and I think that's the fun part about
Have
Monster of
y'all
the
checked
Week
in on the
is
moon lately?
oh, I do every day.
That, not gonna lie,
It's about to be like
researching the things y'all sent in and having that moment of like, if I had a nickel for every time something tried to eat the moon, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's
But
weird it
it's
happened
weird.
twice. Like,
Yeah.
They love the
uh,
moon.
they do. Uh, and like and this is like what I love about folklore and quote unquote monsters. Uh, is how much it does derive from different cultures in different points in time and reasons for becoming real. Because I am one of those people that I believe in everything. You tell me that it is folklore, I'm like, nope, that does exist somewhere. A story is not something that is made up in a head. Someone had to see it. It now is real. I am one of those people. I
Mm.
still hold very Appalachian kind of folklore things where I will not say certain words.
I
I
don't
will
do
not
that.
do certain things.
I don't play those
Uh,
games.
I do not play with those superstitions. And once I learn ones from other cultures, I'm like, I also will not do that. um, and that is such like a great thing within cultures and kind of immersing this within this game. Um, seeing as I lose track of who has talked, did everyone answer that last question before I move on to the next one? Who wanted to?
I think we all
If
did,
I
but I
keep,
want to give a quick shout out. So I really appreciated the care that went into like the selections and this conversation, like being able to like Devin met with all of us one-on-one, and I don't know about all y'all's experience, but like the amount of research that he did, and then the question of like, if I include this, are there things I should and shouldn't, like hard yeses or hard nos that have to be included? Like the thought and care that went into that to make sure this is like representative in the right way. Like it's nothing I've experienced at a table before, and it like the intentionality wasn't like so cool. So shout out to like not just let's have a diverse table. Yes, let's use like monsters from these backgrounds, but also like this is still someone's culture. This is still active. This is still life. This is still reality for many people, and I want to make sure that it's shown in the correct light, not just the like, haha, this is a joke light.
Mm-hmm.
For reference, this is all you guys. This is
Ooh.
all notes for this
Yeah.
campaign. We
Wonderful.
haven't even
Devin-
started yet.
Devin out here doing the work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nice.
yeah.
I will shed to light, like that is something that Devin and I talked about in our first meeting as GM to producer. Was I love the idea, but my biggest thing is I wanted to make sure that it was included correctly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That everything wasn't in a stance of like, yes, diverse table, because diversity is amazing, but also we wanted to include everything in the right light and being able to explore your cultures and all of this beauty that comes from it that we don't get to see that often. And I know from Devin's passion that every one of those one-on-one sessions went beautifully. And hearing you talk about that, DJ, just like makes me feel so warm and cozy inside as the producer of this show. Um, so I love you all. Um, any The last question I have is more mechanics for people who are joining today, for who might not know about Monster of the Week. But before we get to the technical question, anything else y'all want to say, either like about characters, anything that you want to sneak peek, anything, any other questions to each other?
I was thinking, I love to talk, but I also love to ask questions because I'm a very curious person, right? Like, what can I get out of my friends from this conversation? But like, I think the most interesting thing that I've discovered predominantly in session 0 working with this table and like new faces is how quickly we kind of just fell into like just being creative together. Like, I feel like we've been vibing off of each other for like ever. Like, I don't remember a time before meeting you guys, honestly. I'm just like, you guys are my friends. And my brain just kind of clicked like friend shaped people. And, you know, but I think my favorite thing is like everybody has like their pop culture references that inspire their character. So I was thinking, like, I mean, my inspiration is obvious. Look at this girl, she's such a badass. But I mean, if there are non-spoilery things people want to share with about their inspirations, that would be a really cool thing to talk about.
Oh. Oh, I will
Agreed.
never hesitate to tell my inspiration because it is one of the best movies I have watched this year. I don't know if it shows in like America or Europe or the western side of the world, but there is this Korean horror movie called Exhuma that came out a few months ago, and it is amazing. If you all have the chance to watch it, watch it. My main
Oh my
my Monster of the Week character
Okay.
is inspired by the female lead from that movie, a Buddhist shaman.
Oh, cool. That's so cool.
Watch
For
it.
me, I knew I wanted to play a spellcaster, like a hardcore spellcaster. So that was fun. And then I really got into the Castlevania series when like that's on Netflix when it came out, and so Cypher is like the character. And what I like so much about her is the reality and my character will be similar is like it's not I'm gonna stand back and like pew pew you from a distance. Like Cypher gets into the shit and like is involved, and that's not the narrative around. I think when I think of like D&D, like of spellcasters, they're frail, they stay in the back, all these things. We're like, I mean, yes, and I want someone who's like not afraid of what this means to do this, and they just use magic as the tool to get shit done. So that was really exciting to see a spellcaster who did that, in my opinion, that then I could mirror things off of.
For me, I'm an ooky spooky girly. I love the crystals and the tarots and the astrologists. And I think part of it was recent. I was recently. I had a friend gathering that really wanted to do a PowerPoint party. So I recently did my PowerPoint party over why I personally think Doctor Strange 2 wasn't a good movie and it ruined Wanda's character. Um, which I won't go into right now or bring up that PowerPoint. So I was
I love
very
that
in.
PowerPoint.
I'll send it to you if you want it. Uh, so I was very much in the mindset already of like, ooh, I love a witch. I am a witch. I want to explore that, and a lot of the characters that I naturally create always have this through line of a balancing of like light and dark, of like being human. We are complicated and complex and contradictory, and what does that mean? And what does it mean to have all those things inside of us? So I just wanted to make a character kind of based off of like I guess a little influenced by Scarlet Witch, a little, you know, influenced by all the ooky spooky stuff. Um, so that's how I thought of mine.
Yeah, I mean, like I had some very specific influences, but I think the interesting part of coming together and meeting everyone else was like how the evolution of my concept came about because of the energy everyone else was bringing. So I started with a healer warrior character in Alexandra Tresse. And then I looked at like her adventures, and I was specifically rewatching the animated series, and she was basically the freelancer that the police summon to investigate supernatural stuff. And she's this intermediary between the supernatural world and the human world. There's all of these different pieces of her story that are so cool. But then I looked at like it's a habit of mine to kind of look like what everyone else is doing. Like, that one person who's like, hey, but like what if party composition, right? And somewhere in the middle of session 0, I was like, but what if I was the only person that didn't have um a supernatural component to my character? What if I was just a mundane, like, private investigator that just knows a lot of stuff about the supernatural? So, as much as I had my own, like, pop culture reference and, someone that inspired me, I was like, there's something special about the magic around this table. And I was just like, I was kind of creating my character on the fly, bouncing off of everyone, and then it was just a really cool process.
That's awesome. All right, before we sign off, for those who have still stuck around, let's talk about game mechanics. For those who have not actually been a part of a Monster of the Week game, Devin, let us know what our characters are rolling and
Absolutely.
why they might be rolling.
Yeah. So, your characters, anytime I ask you to do anything, it's easier than D&D. You will roll 2d6. I don't care what I ask you to do, you're going to roll 2d6 and maybe add a number. Um, so, Powered by the Apocalypse games, so far as I'm aware, all work like this. You have 2d6 that you roll, and then you add your modifiers. For Monster of the Week, those modifiers are your charm, your cool, your sharp, you're tough, and you're weird. So I'll tell you, okay, roll me, plus sharp, plus cool, whatever the situation calls for. And then instead of, I'll relate it to D&D because I feel like that is a common link most people have. Instead of your like skill proficiencies, there's moves in Monster of the Week, and each playbook is going to have its own moves. And the way I run it, I kind of improv moves a lot, where I'm not necessarily going to pull from this exact list I'm about to run through with you, but I will say, okay, roll me plus weird, and then we're going to kind of like figure out how it works. But the default moves that we reference are kick some ass, which is you roll plus your tough, and you do this if you're going to kick some ass. Simple enough. You want to punch somebody, roll me plus tough, and we'll see what happens. The way rolls work out is on a 1 through 6, you fail. In the base game, you mark experience for your personal character. The way we're going to do this, because these playbooks are fun and I want y'all to get deeper into them as quickly as we can, we are going to do collective experience. So everybody levels up together. So instead of the basic 5 to a level up, I'm going to do 7 because everybody's contributing to this. But if anyone fails, 1 XP gets marked in there. On a 7 to 9, you get a moderate success. Like, you did the thing that you wanted to do, maybe not the way you wanted to do it. Like, if you try to kick some ass, you roll a 7 through 9, you punch them, they also punched you. You're gonna have to deal with those facts. On a 10 plus, this is, you nailed it. You did exactly what you were hoping to do. It works a little different on every move on how that 10 plus works. For kick some ass, you get to choose one additional effect on top of like whatever you were originally going to do. So like you can gain advantage and take +1 forward or give +1 forward. The +1 forward just means your next roll gets a +1. If it's +1 ongoing, then that means you get that +1 for as long as whatever condition applies. So you can either take or give a +1 for the next roll, inflict terrible harm, which basically means you do 1 extra harm or damage, suffer less harm. So like you got punched, but like you got your shoulder in the way, you shrugged it off a little, or you force them where you want them. Then we have act under pressure, which I'm going to ask you to do if you are trying to do something in a stressful situation or just not screw something up. So again, 1 through 6, you fail to do what you want. 7 to 9, you'll get a worse outcome, a hard choice. There might be a price to pay. In our personal game, our crooked was looking for a way like into the basement of an art museum and found the trigger on a statue to open up the door, but also very audibly heard a security system engage. So it's like, you can go, they're gonna know. They are absolutely aware you're down there. You may have to deal with these facts. And then on a 10 plus, like you nailed it. You did what you wanted to do the way you wanted to do it, with an asterisk, because maybe you don't have all the information. But the next move we have is help out. And for act under pressure, that is plus cool. I don't remember if I mentioned that. Help out is also rolling plus cool, and this is just to help another hunter with what they're doing. So on a 10 plus, you give them a +1, so they roll better. 7 to 9, you get them the +1 to their roll, but you're also exposing yourself to trouble or danger. So like if you're trying to help somebody kick some ass, cool. You successfully helped them punch this guy, however, you are now getting punched. And then again, 1 through 6, you didn't. You failed. You also exposed yourself to danger. Congratulations. Next, we get into the very wordy ones, but they're not as bad as they seem. So, investigate a mystery is going to be roll plus sharp. So, again, 12 plus. This one works a little differently. On a 12 plus, you will get to hold 2, and your holds you spend to ask questions. So, 10 plus is hold 2, 7 to 9 is hold 1, 6 or less, hold none, and get your experience. And
So
then
those
with those holds,
questions, are those questions to the GM?
yes, there will be questions to the keeper. There's a specific list. I play a little loose, so a lot of times it's like, great, you succeeded. What do you want to know? If you need inspiration, their list is what happened here, what sort of creature is it, what can it do, what can it hurt, or what can hurt it. I assume it could probably hurt everything. So what can hurt it? Where did it go? What was it going to do? Or what is being concealed here? So those are like the
Ah.
basic questions. If there's, if you come at me with like, how does this creature feel about Tuesdays? Absolutely. Like we'll roll with it. I'll play into whatever plan you might have
Our-
going, and we will see where this goes.
Our tacos only for Tuesday,
Yeah.
according to this creature. How does it feel about the moon as meal?
It also thinks the moon is just a taco. Absolutely.
Or-
Our next move is manipulate someone. This is basically your persuasion check. So you roll plus charm. On a 10 plus, they will do it for whatever reason you gave this person to do the thing for you. So this is usually like you're not necessarily asking your friend to do something, you're asking your manager to give you time off. On a 10 plus, yeah, sure, they'll do it given whatever compromise you made for them. Maybe you're coming in the next day, whatever. If you ask too much, so if you go in and just ask for the next month off, they will tell you what it would take to give you a month off. On a 7 to 9, they'll do it, but only if you do something for them right now to show you mean it. So if you ask too much, they'll tell you what, if anything, it would take for them to do the thing you're asking. On a 1 through 6, again, failure, they won't do it. You can also do this to try to convince other hunters to do something that maybe they are not inclined to do. On a 10 plus, if they do what you ask, they will get to mark experience and get +1 on their next roll. On a 7 to 9, they mark experience if they do what you ask. So in this case, it'll be XP for everybody, so everybody wins. On a miss, it's up to the hunter to decide how badly you offended or annoyed them. They mark experience if they decide not to do what you asked. Monsters and minions cannot generally be manipulated. So you can try talking to the Oogie Boogie that's crawling out of the sewers. Might not work out for you, but you could sure try. If you're convincing, it might work. Next, we have protect someone. So with this, you're protecting somebody, you're putting yourself in danger to save them. So you'll roll plus tough on this. 7 plus, you protect them okay, but you'll suffer some or all of the harm that they were going to receive. On a 10 plus, you choose an extra, kind of like with Kick Some Ass, where you suffer less harm. All impending danger is now focused on you. You inflict harm on the enemy, or you can hold the enemy back. So, Monster of the Week is very narrative with how it goes. So unlike D&D, where your combat is all going to be turn by turn by turn, nah, I'm going to tell you, hey, there's a giant snarling beast looking at you. What would you like to do? And then whoever wants to speak up can do a thing, and it'll stay very loose. Generally, the creature is just going to respond to what you are doing instead of having its own turn, per se. That means if you run up and try to stab it, it'll probably bite you. Expected results. To read a bad
Consequences to my
situation.
actions. Sorry, I said consequences to the actions.
Yes, yeah,
It's fine.
yeah. There are indeed consequences to your actions. Our next move is read a bad situation. So in this one, you'll roll plus sharp. So sharp is kind of like an intelligence analog. It's your ability to read a situation or put pieces together. So on a 10 plus, you get to hold 3. On a 7 to 9, you get to hold 1. So this is like the investigative mystery again. Then you can ask me one of the following questions. We can play it more loosely if you have something else, but you can ask, what's your best way in? What's your best way out? Are there any dangers that you haven't noticed? What's the biggest threat? What's the most vulnerable to me? Or what's the best way to protect the victims? Or you can do like many of my players, and by players, I mean me anytime Curtis tries to GM me in anything, and ask, hey, what's the worst thing I can do? And then go do that. It's fantastic. If you act on your answers, then you will get a +1 ongoing while the information is relevant. So that ongoing means that while you are acting on that information, you'll get a +1, just continuously. And then we get to magic. So for magic, you'll roll plus weird. There is basic magic, which is like, these are your little spells. On a 10 plus, and this is honestly probably going to be different for almost everybody here because most of you have a magic based class that has its own special moves within using magic. But if you're doing anything outside those moves, on a 10 plus, magic works without issue. You get to choose what you want to do, we'll make it happen. On a 7 to 9, it'll work imperfectly. So you choose an effect and a glitch, and the keeper will decide what effect the glitch has. And then on a 1 through 6, it doesn't work. There may also be some backfire from that. It'll depend narratively on what's going on. So the effects for use magic are inflict harm, enchant a weapon, do one thing that is beyond human limitations, bar a place or portal to a specific person or type of creature, trap a specific person, minion, or monster, banish a spirit or curse from the person, object, or place it inhabits, summon a monster into the world, communicate with something that you do not share a language with, observe another place or time, or heal one harm from an injury, or cure a disease, or neutralize a poison. Honestly, you could do almost anything with magic. As long as it is reasonable that it's something you could just kind of quick fire do, I will absolutely roll with it. I've had characters kind of pull invisibility or use it to hide themselves. I've ruled that you can roll plus your weird to basically vibe check a scene instead of like actually using your brain to figure out what happened. Just be like, but how do I feel about this? And I'll be like, well, it feels real spooky, and you think the spooky went that way. Like, we can roll with it, a lot of things here. The glitches for magic are the effect is weakened, the effect is of short duration, you take one harm, the magic draws immediate unwelcome attention, or it has a problematic side effect. And depending on what you want to do, there may be materials, there may be conditions. We'll figure that out. Most of those come into our final move, which is big magic. When you would like to cast magic with a capital M, you have to do a ritual. Usually, there's more. Basically, there's conditions. The ones they list out are spend a lot of time researching the ritual, experiment with the spell. There will be lots of failures before you get it right. You need some rare and weird ingredients and supplies. The spell will take a long time to cast. You need a lot of people to help. Needs to be cast at a particular place and or time. Need to use magic as part of the ritual, perhaps to summon a monster, communicate with something, or bar the portal you open. And it will have specific side effects or danger. So, basically, it's going to be a thing. If you want to do big magic, it's a thing. If you want to do little magic, go for it. And those are all of our basic moves.
That was such a nice,
Hey, wonderful.
a less than 5-minute rundown of how Magic of the Week works, or Monster of the Week works. Sorry, magic is not now in my head. And I applaud you for that because I know this game can be monstrous. Trying to get
There
the
there we
there
go.
it is. The nitty gritty down. But I applaud you for that. And I'm so excited to see how all of you and everything works out come next week.
Yeah.
Because next week will be our first game.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see all of y'all and the story that is going to be told in the base of Seattle in the Paranormal Investigators uh, subsect and what happens. Um, Before we sign off for tonight, I'm going to give the floor to all of you to introduce yourselves one more time. If you would like to share a character's name for next week, you're more than welcome to. And also plug anything of where they can find you, anything else to kind of get the feel for you if anything's going to be popping up before we see you next. So we started with Devin first last time and ended with DJ. So we're going to start with DJ, and then DJ, you can popcorn around.
Awesome. So I'll be playing Hector Salas, the spell slinger. So you'll meet Hector next week. And you can find me mostly on Twitter because I won't call it X because that's dumb. At DJ_KQ. You can hear my voice on the Queer XP, where I am a chaos gremlin, just full stop. And I am on Discord, and you can just find me there if you want me to.
So let's go around to Nikki.
Alright, hello there. I am Nick, and I will be playing Li Teng An, the initiate, who is a Buddhist shaman that specializes in monsters of the week term big magic, so ritualistic stuff. And you can find me on social media as NickSnat1 with the number one. I am mostly on Discord and Twitter. And beyond that, I am about to start a new AP soon with DA Dungeons, which, if I do the time zone translation correct, will actually be an hour before this game. So the DA Dungeon game will end 1 hour later. I'll be playing in this game. And that one is basically
Dang.
we're doing Dragons of Icespire Peak for D&D, except that series is called Random DM. So at the end of each session, the DM will roll a dice, and then whoever's name is tied to that number will be the new DM for the next week.
Oh,
And
that
then we're
sounds
just
like
gonna
so
do
much
that
fun.
until we finish.
That's
Are
fun.
you assigned a number permanently, or does your number change every week?
I'm not sure yet. But yeah, so it's basically Russian roulette of DMs. And when we are the DM, the story isn't that we run the game, but we are actually telling the story from the point of view of our character. And so how our
Ah.
characters see the characters of the other players, the DM, will tell them, and because this is how my characters see you, so behave this way, and then we just play through, and then we see what happens.
Ah, that's interesting.
God,
Yeah, it's our way to
that's a
keep
cool
the
little.
play. Yeah, it's for us to keep the character inside the game while we are not playing them, because everyone will have a character because we're swapping around. Yeah, so
That's
it's a
so
POV
cool.
chapter. Yeah, I can't wait to see how it plays out.
That sounds very interesting. All right, Ian. Last thoughts, last words.
Yeah, final thoughts, final words. Hopefully not forever. My name is Ian DePriest.
Just for tonight.
Just for tonight. The character that I'm going to play is Morgan Yuen. Uh, they, them, because I feel like it. Why not? The playbook I'm doing is called The Spooky because I already said I was a spooky girly. So expect some spookiness. Things that are coming up soon. Next Monday, I'm in another actual play on the channel. I think the Twitch channel is called Wild and Out. So Wild and then AND and OUT. We're finishing up a really short campaign of that's called Dad's Rock. We're all dads that are going to a final rock concert together, and shenanigans ensues, and it's like a D&D 5e kind of thing. It's a final encounter um, of what happens at the concert. And is this coming Monday uh, on the 8th. Same time actually. 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Other than that, you can find me anywhere on the socials. If you just type in Ian DePriest, I'm pretty sure it'll pop up in Instagram, TikTok. On Twitter, it's weird. It's just my name, Ian, and then LDP, because I didn't think about that when I did that. And that's me. Thank you so much.
And darling.
Ah, hi. I guess it's my turn now. Hi. You can find me on Twitter. I refuse to call it X because that's weird. At XO underscore girl wonder, where I rant and rave, mostly rave about my friends and the things that they are doing, and also tell people what I'm doing. Sometimes this upcoming week, I will be on my own channel, Bardic Inspiration Network, on Twitch, playing D&D. I love the setting of Exandria, and it's a thing that kind of hyper focused about for like 10 years. It's a really cool world. So I'm playing two separate characters in two separate campaigns on my channel. Um, bi-weekly. So this upcoming week is a D&D week. On Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, I will be playing a tiefling divine soul sorcerer named Hope. Is about to start the big tournament arc, where our DM just decided we were going to get weird and we were going to fight in a anime style tournament arc. She is a sorcerer, so it's going to get real weird. And on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I will be playing my cute little guy, Aya, who is Water Ashari, who is going through her Aramente. We're also starting a new arc. I have no idea what's happening in that campaign. I'm just along for the ride. So Bardic Inspiration Network, go check the Twitch channel and follow, and check out our adventures there. And wait, I knew I forgot something. I will be playing Carmen Rivera, the Gumshoe, with no magical abilities whatsoever. Her family is a family of magical hunters, and somehow she got passed over on the magic side. You know, the child of the sixth child just doesn't get supernatural powers or whatever because her dad was the sixth child in the family, and she just, you know, the magic got so diluted after the first five siblings that there wasn't enough for her. So feels bad, man. But she basically is a big nerd who hyper focuses on cryptids, local cryptids, and supernatural creatures, and is a freelancer when the police are like, we don't know what the heck's happening. They usually call her, and that's her thing. She's just a real big nerd. That's her superpower.
All right. And
Best
before we
superpower.
sign off, Devin,
Yes. Hello.
actually, last but not least, I kept track this time.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Devin, he, him. You can find me really here. I will be here on Wednesdays playing Ding, the very old, kind of crazy divination wizard who fucked around and found out and decided maybe I shouldn't do that.
And then
But
did it
also
again.
deals with a version of himself in a ring that may have a god complex after fucking around and finding out. So, you know, it's a time. But you can find me here doing that. We just hit level 17, which means I now have 9th level spells, and it's
no.
going to be Curtis's problem.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Um,
Yeah.
and then on Thursdays now, you will find me here running all of these wonderful, amazing people through the absolute horrors that they have sent me to research, and I am so excited for it.
This is a moment where we say you did it to yourselves, but also we are here for it. I
Uh-huh.
love it.
Yes.
Um,
I know exactly what I did, and I'm glad I sent in the creatures that eat the moon as opposed to the
I'm
creatures that eat
so
little
excited.
kids.
I'm so excited for all of this. Before we sign off, as always, keep a hold of our socials. Follow us on all of the things because we have all of the things. Most of it is actually at 5% chance, except for the site formerly known as Twitter, aka X, that sometimes allows us to post, which is just chance 5. Um, but look at our threads, look at our Instagram. That is where we do a lot of our uptakes. We do have Blue Sky. Look at those things, all of that. And before we see you next, again, I am Erica Jean, aka Call the Cleric 315. And until then, it's always a chance of TBD. Good night, everybody.